Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Law Firm Success Story. Now, one of the things that you'll find is that a lot of times lawyers may not necessarily be thinking about what life is going to look like after they finish practicing law or after they get to a point where they want to take a step back from practicing law. So, we have an amazing guest on, Ben Wilson, and I want to talk to him about his story on what are some of the things he thought about and how he went through that journey himself. So, welcome to the show, Ben.
Pleased to be here, Terrell. Thank you for having me, and pleased to be with you and with your audience. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to talk first about what does attorney Ben Wilson, what does your life look like now? And then I want to go through the story on how'd you get there.
I retired at the end of 2021. I was with a law firm called Beveridge and Diamond. I'd been the managing partner of that firm for 9 years and its first chair for 4 years. And Terrell, I didn't think I wanted to come to a complete stop. The truth is that no one knows when the proper time is to retire. You either do it a little too soon or a little too late. But quite frankly, I didn't want to be the curmudgeon who hung around and said, you all are doing things differently than we used to do it. I thought I was the kind of person who needed to get out of the way so progress can be made. And the firm is making great progress in my absence. And I'm very proud of what they have done. And in terms of my life, I was, at the time I retired, I served on 3 corporate boards: Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, the Quiet Company, Pacific Gas and Electric, the utility for Northern California, and APCO, which is a women-owned consulting firm that's based here in Washington, but does work across the country and around the world, really. I was serving on a number of nonprofit boards. I'd been the chair of the Environmental Law Institute, but I ended that as well. And then, but currently, I am on our local judicial nomination commission in the District of Columbia. Terrell, we have a Superior Court and a DC Court of Appeals. We don't have a Supreme Court of DC, but we have some very talented and public-minded individuals who are willing to serve our community as judges, and we need the rule of law. I also recently became the president of the DC Bar Foundation, and our group's obligation is to help raise money, to work with groups that provide legal services for the poor in the District of Columbia. And my third major current nonprofit effort, I co-chair a task force that's addressing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the legal profession. You've probably read a lot about some of the retrenchment in some corporate quarters, in some state houses across the country. The DC bars are the largest mandatory bar in the country, over 115,000 lawyers in every state in the union and most of the countries around the world. And we expect to complete our report before the end of the year. And we want to not only talk about why DEIA is important, but to offer real practical advice. So if you're a sole practitioner or you're the largest law firm in the world, if you're in the federal government or the local government, if you're a judge of our court, if you're in academia, if you're with a nonprofit, if you're with a public interest group, if you're with a trade association, you're at the largest corporation in the world or a small regional company, we want to make certain that we give you specific tools to succeed as it relates to DEIA. And then I teach at Howard University School of Law. This is my 20th year. Terrell, I hope they like me. I think that if they know it's because I'm the right price, charge anything. But I love the students at the law school, admire the other professors and our past deans and current law school dean. And so very proud of that experience. And then the truth is been involved in a lot of environmental matters, which was my practice, but I didn't see many people of color. And I wanted that to change. And of course, Howard is the ultimate place if you want to influence participation by women and men of color. And then my wife and I have a grandson. His name is Cameron. He's 3.5 years old, Cameron Patterson. And we are the babysitters, and we used to be the daycare from age 6 months to 2.5. So we were the right price, and we were always open, like 7-Eleven. But we love him, and we're grateful that he's a part of We are part of his life, rather. Thank you so much.
Awesome. It sounds like even after retiring from the practice of law as a managing partner back in 2021, it seems like you haven't slowed down. It seems like you've kept yourself pretty occupied.
The perfect truth is, Terrell, no one knows everything about your life, right? Your spouse, your significant other knows something. Your children may know another part of your life, your coworkers, but we have interests outside of our work, and I always did, and in our communities in which we live. But I thought I would need something that would keep me occupied, but I was also hoping I might have something to offer. And that I hope that's been the case.
What I love to talk a little bit more about is you talked about even after being a managing partner, you served on a couple of boards. You're still a professor. And even with some of those things, those don't seem like things that, hey, you stop being a managing partner and then the phone is ringing off the hook for people to ask you to sit on their board, you to ask you to be a professor. Were there things that you were doing or were there relationships that developed prior to ending your term as managing partner that kind of led to some of those things?
Absolutely. The truth is that uh, I've been teaching for 20 years. So when I retired a couple years ago, uh, I've been doing that for a long time. I'd been serving on the board of all three companies at the time I retired. And so those were already in motion. What I did is I reduced some of my activities on nonprofit boards, right? And I now have one less corporate board. And I'd been on that board for 13, 14 years. And so I've trimmed down some of the other activities. I used to joke I need to go to work so I can rest. And I miss the practice of law. I love my clients. I love working with them to solve problems. And they still call me from time to time. And I seeking my advice or recommendations. And I'm always pleased to speak with them.
Mm-mm. Now, what was it like with all of that going on, these different things that you were doing outside of your role as managing partner, but then also being the managing partner? What was it like leading a firm and really providing that guidance or vision as the managing partner of the firm?
That's a great question. And the fact of the matter is, I thought about what I would do if I were ever asked to lead our firm. And this, just because you haven't done something before doesn't mean you haven't thought about it. And I'd been on the management committee of our firm in the past. I led one of our significant practice groups in the past. So I had some thoughts. And I think the first vision was to make sure we had everyone busy, ideally doing work that they like to do. When I uh, became the managing partner, later chair of the firm, we were coming out of a recession in 2008, and that was and in addition, we had companies that were being more discriminating in who they hired. Cost was important to them. Efficiency was important. And we as a firm had to define ourselves. We wanted to be seen as the leading environmental law firm in America. I always tell people we worked in environmental law with University of Connecticut West of women's basketball. These other sports, not so much. But in this one little area, we can compete and beat anyone. And over time, through the hard work of my colleagues, we were able to demonstrate that to our clients, and we earned the respect of our peers, who oftentimes recommended us to their clients. And so that's really that. So we started there. We had to visit our clients to understand not just what the specific problem was, but how that problem related to their overall business plan. What role did we play in the big picture of that company? And we wanted to be, think like business people who happen to know something about the law, as opposed to lawyers who were simply focusing on the law without regard to its impact on the business. And so if you can get that client to see you as a strategic partner that helps them achieve their strategic initiatives, then you have a truly remarkable effort there. I spent a lot of time drumming up business individually, encouraging others to do that. We worked harder as teams teams to develop client relationships. I hope when I left, I set an example of leading succession planning. That is, having some of my colleagues who had worked very hard to build these relationships to take them over when I left. That was important to me. And I like to think that we did that. Another important initiative for me, and others had started it, my predecessor had, but this emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I thought we needed to attract the best people possible. Some of them were women, some of them were diverse. And we needed to do a better job of retaining our talented people. We needed to give people incentives to share credit in originating work, so that we could broaden and deepen the relationships with our clients. So I'd like to think there were initiatives that I was a part of, working with others to help make our firm stronger. And that was the other important point. What is it that differentiates you as an individual lawyer? What is it that differentiates you as a firm? And we wanted to deliver an uncommon level of service. We wanted to be experts at what we did. And we wanted to not simply look at the case from what is in the best interest of our firm, but what is, first and foremost, what is in the best interest of our client. And sometimes that meant that our role should recede. We should not be involved at all. And I think the clients respected us when we provided advice, which wasn't necessarily in our selfish best interest, but hopefully always in the client's best.
Awesome. I love it. Quite the wealth of a career that is still going and just in a different form of all the other things that you've been doing since you retired as the managing partner. So before we wrap up, one question I always love asking every guest that comes on is, let's say you're talking to a law firm owner and they're about 5 to 7 years into running their practice. Any advice you would give them as they're trying to figure out, like, hey, what should I be doing now if I'm thinking about the future?
I think first you have to stay hungry. I didn't say hungry, Hungrey, but I said Hongreen. And I see a sense of familiarity in your smile. And hungry means you can have soup and salad and you're fine. Hungry means the table's covered with food and yet it's not enough. And when you're in business and when you're practicing law, the truth is when you are in business, you have to stay hungry. You can't take a client for granted. If you're busy today, you can't assume that you'll be busy tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. I was relentless about pursuing good, interesting work that would keep our people busy and would make our firm profitable. I think you have to invest in people. Years ago, General Electric used to have a television show called General Electric Theater. And their spokesman was a fellow who would become the President, Ronald Reagan. And he said, progress is our most important product. I believe that people are our most important product. So care about the people and they will care about you. And it was Maya Angelou who said, people will not remember what you say to them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And last but not least, what I think is the most important is that I measure life on impact. My hero is Jackie Robinson. He said, a life is unimportant except in the impact it has on other lives. And so in your work, in your teaching, in your community service, it's always important to think about what is the impact that I'm having? Is this organization better because I'm working for it, serving on its board? Are the opportunities better for the people we intend to serve? And the final point I was always inspired by, not often from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He said, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. So sometimes in life, a lawyers by definition are cautious. And caution is a good thing. Avoiding risk, always essential. But life doesn't always present a nice, clear, easy path. And so I believe you have to be willing to go out on faith, to believe in yourself, to believe in your organization, but take that step, not necessarily knowing that first step, where it will end. We don't know what we bring to the future, Terrell. Excuse me. We don't know what the future brings, rather, but we do know what we bring to the future. And if we bring to the future our full selves, uh, good listeners, uh, problem solving, but always asking ourselves, what impact are we having? Is it better because of what we're doing? And if the answer is yes, we need to do more of it. Thank you for this today. I genuinely appreciate the time, and please forgive my Steelers attire. There's a new former Pittsburgh Steelers. As they say in Pittsburgh, here we go.
I love it. Ben, thank you so much for coming on. And everyone that's listening, thanks for listening. And I encourage you to continue to listen to at least one success story a day because there's inspiration and so much wisdom and things to learn from others who are moving forward in the legal profession and in the legal industry. So thanks for tuning in.